Right. Before we get started, I'd like to kind of quickly go through some of the housekeeping things for everyone who is there, who have joined us for this webinar. Uh, Quick note, you can access your media player, your Q&A window, your rated content. All of that is available to you. You can also access the speaker bios while you are, kind of listening to us. So I like to highlight that keep this webinar very interactive. Join the conversation, answer the polls. We have some polls for you too, and leave your comments. Access the survey that we also have towards the end of the webinar to leave your feedback for us. And you also will have a Q&A at the end where we'll try and answer your questions, but keep posting your questions as we go through this webinar. And before we start, I'm going to quickly run a video for you.
The data's out there, sitting unused, untapped, lifeless. If you listen carefully, you can hear that data, and it's whispering, "Wake me up." Say hello to Informatica. This is more than the world's leading intelligent data management cloud. This will make your data larger than life, powering over 250 intelligent cloud services and launching new ways of thinking, innovating, doing. This is next generation AI-powered access to trusted data and insights wherever and whenever you need them. Use what you need, pay for what you use, connecting across any cloud for everyone across your organization, truly democratizing data with the highest levels of scalability, integration, and security. Chaos and uncertainty, gone. This is our time, your time, go time. It's time to take your business to new heights, to bring your data to life. You now have a single source of truth via metadata, managing data to give it life, to make big bets, to help you leapfrog the competition. The numbers don't lie. Globalization, optimized. Customer experience, transformed. Digital innovation, delivered. So what are you waiting for? An invitation? Informatica, where data comes to life.
Okay, so that's what we saw, how data comes to life. So hello and welcome everyone. Today's topic is drive revenue with data sharing and overcome data silos with data democratization. In today's webinar, we will hear how data sharing and democratization is becoming more and more important in the ever-changing data landscape. As part of the webinar, we'll cover a few broad topics. We will learn why data sharing and democratization is so important, what to look out for when you embark on this journey, and then finally, how it can be set into action. As I said before, we want to keep this webinar interactive, so feel free to participate via the chat. We want your feedback, and we will have a few polls as we go through the webinar, so please share your thoughts through the poll. With that said, we'll get started. So I want to introduce myself. I am Ramesh Gauss. I'm Senior Manager Technical Marketing within Informatica. I'm going to be your host today. And joining us from Informatica, we have two experts. We have Josh Earhart, Director of Product Marketing for Data Marketplace, so who is very passionate about product marketing as well as Data Marketplace. And we have Ian Stahl, who is the Senior Director of Product Management for Data Marketplace. So Ian is like the true brains behind our Data Marketplace service within Informatica. That said, we have some special guests with us from Horn. We have Amanda Hines, who's a business data analyst. We have Carol Kui, who is the data scientist, and we have Indrajit Dasgupta joining us. He's a senior manager, data engineering, analytics, and governance. So I would like to go into the first question, and this is for you, Josh. So we are hearing this term called data sharing and data democratization often interchangeably. So what in essence is data sharing and democratization? And why is it getting so much traction in today's world of data?
Thank you, Ramiz. And just to kind of add to my experience, I've spent 15 plus years as a data architect, project manager, a developer for many enterprise data and analytics solutions. And this has been a common gap in many of those solutions. People try to overcome it manually, but as you will see, this is something that as a data architect, I'm extremely passionate about. With the cloud revolution, many organizations have infinite amount of data repositories. And that comes with a vast skill set to be able to access that data, right? You could create the best data model, the best dashboard, the best analytics, but if it's not in a centralized place for someone to access, then the enterprise doesn't know. And what I love about this graphic is it represents it at a higher corporate level. You can see that the CDO and the CDAO, the Chief Data Officer and the Chief Data Analytics Officer, they're at the center of this. And we can't think about it in isolation anymore. It has to scale. And just because sales has an issue doesn't mean that the line of business, the architects, the operations don't have similar types of issues. And if this isn't addressed, then the IT department's forced to triage this and basically do these one-offs. So now that you see these organizations, especially in this economy, struggle to keep up, struggle to staff, artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities are more and more critical for these organizations to scale.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. That was insightful. And I have my next question for you, Ian. So, according to you, why is it so critical for today's organization to make data sharing and democratization easy? And what are some of the key business drivers that are kind of behind these kind of initiatives?
Hey, Ramiz, thanks. Thank you for the introduction, for the very generous introduction. And I guess just by way of background, I've been working in the data governance space here at Informatica for quite a long time, I think going back to 2014. And I think the thing that we've been seeing among our customers that are leveraging our catalog and governance capabilities, our metadata intelligence capabilities, is that increasingly they are citing the need to be able to make data available to inform critical business decisions and critical business outcomes is the thing that is driving their data management investments. And I think this was something that was borne out by the recent survey that we made of data and analytics leaders, where 5 of the 6 top priorities the survey participants cited for their data strategy going into 2023 related to reducing the cost or otherwise defrictioning availability of data to analytics practitioners, to machine learning and artificial intelligence practitioners, other data consumers that need that. And I think that what we found, what many of our customers have found, is that they can stand up operations functions in the organization to be able to address that delivery, right? But in truth, for most organizations that operate at enterprise size and scale, like Horn, right, there's just not enough data engineers in the world to be able to address all the data provisioning requests that are coming in from that flood of analytics consumers that need data, right? So really the need is to be able to make data more accessible, more available to a wider constituency, regardless of their current level of technical skill set, technical, or what might refer to as data literacy. And that ability to sort of democratize data, if you will, by making it more available, that's really a function of what we're doing with all the work that we're doing around data democratization, data sharing, and data marketplace.
Right. Thank you, Ian. I think that was very, very helpful. With that, we have our first audience poll. I'm going to open this poll to everyone just so that your answers are going to be anonymous. So please participate in this poll. We'll have a minute to kind of go through it, and then I'll look at the results and share it with you. I hope everyone is able to see the audience poll right now. Okay. Let's visit the results. So as we see a large, okay. As we see a large part of our, okay, why is it shifting? Okay. So as per the results, what you see is most of the audience said that 45% of the audience is saying that it's top of our mind, and then 54%. So largely the mix of responses, it's either important or it's at the top of our mind. So it just re-emphasizes the fact how important data sharing and democratization is for everybody. With that said, I'll move into the next section. And this will be primarily me, talking to our guest speakers. So first of all, Amanda, Indrajit, and Carol, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Horn? And we'd also love to hear about your journey and how you did go through the whole process of, getting this initiative up and running.
Sure, Rameez. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here today. So just a quick little background on us again. I'm a business data analyst at Horn, and I am the lead for the adoption of the marketplace at Horn. And Carol, if you want to jump in next.
Sure, yeah, I'll go ahead. So my name is Carol Quay. I'm a data scientist at Horn. I'm also the lead of data cataloging, data quality, and data profiling for the firm. Indrajit?
Hi, I'm Indrajit Dasgupta. So I have about 20 odd years of working on the different spheres that I think we are touched upon, primarily architecture, data architecture, analytics, governance, and of course, engineering. So I think when I came in here, one of the important things was to kind of integrate everything together. That's why in my role, you would find that there is a consolidation of the different things. So I'm senior manager, data engineering, analytics, and governance. Amanda.
Great. That's a little bit about us. So let's talk a little bit more about Horn and what we do. We are a professional services firm, and we're founded on the cornerstone of public accounting. And as we've grown, we serve clients in all 50 states, DC, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we do this by providing professional services of a variety of types, which you can see listed over on the right-hand side, from organization growth to risk management to technology and more. Now that we've discussed a little bit about Horn, let's talk about what our prior state was before this data governance team was formed and before we had Horn's enterprise data governance framework, which we'll talk a little bit more about in just a few minutes. So I think this first state will resonate a lot with our listeners, this idea of siloed data knowledge. So there were several concerns that led us to the formation of this governance team and the framework. And as our company has grown and with the increase of projects and types and employees and their specialties, our data knowledge really had become extremely fragmented. And that data knowledge remained with our business subject matter experts and with their IT person that was helping them. So that fragmentation really led to the next two data concerns that are shown on this slide. Indrajit, would you mind talking a little bit more about those two?
Sure. Thank you, Amanda. As Amanda had shared in the earlier slide, we have pretty few very critical business areas, and that would be, say, health services, federal government services, and of course, financial services and HR. What that kind of translates to is a humongous amount of PII and PHI data. And along with the siloed data knowledge, there seems to have been very fragmented approach of how to manage PII and PHI data in the organization. People had different ways of managing it. They had different ways of compliance and security and different tools. And this was a major problem of kind of protecting and securing the data, and especially based on the ownership that we had and a responsibility of those different kinds of data. That was really a tremendous problem. Carol?
Yeah, so we had, like Indra just mentioned, we really had no standardized process to managing policies and the data access. Another thing for Horn is we also had no system of cataloging data across, the wide range of business areas you've seen that we serve. We can't answer the question about which data and where it resides. So this just compounded to the other concerns we've already discussed. So Amanda is going to talk about our journey to try to address those concerns.
Great, thanks, Carol. We can shift to there you go. So we mentioned briefly the enterprise data governance framework that we developed at Horn, and that really came from a lot of research and discussion across the data governance team. And from all of that, we designed what we're calling Horn's Enterprise Data Governance Framework. And really what that is just a standardized process for producing well-defined, compliant, and accessible data collections. And these collections really help us to drive business decisions and take into account all of the topics you see over on the left-hand side, from compliance to organization to technology, data architecture, and on. And it really is a cycle, and it's constantly being improved. A framework on its own, though, is not enough. You have to be able to implement it, and you have to be able to implement it in a way that it is easy for your end users to follow it. Otherwise, it won't be used. And so after research, Horn decided to adopt Informatica's Intelligent Data Management Cloud. And specifically, we're using the tools that are listed here over on the right-hand side, from the Metadata Command Center to scan and catalog our data, to the Cloud Data Governance and Catalog, which allows us to enhance that physical data with business terms and business metrics, to the Cloud Data Marketplace, where we make that data available for data consumers to self-serve. And then the Cloud Data Quality and the Cloud Data Profiling allow us to know the type of quality of our data and to ensure that we have quality checks in place and that users can see that so that they feel confident in their data. And so that's how we are utilizing IDMC to actually implement our data governance framework. So with that, we formed this data governance team, and we then went through, and we have a small IT part of that governance team. And so we went through and we divided out the different tools, and we specialized in those different tools, and then we cross-trained. And in order to be able to go out and socialize this platform, we went ahead and created a couple of small POCs that we used for quick wins. And then once we had those quick wins, we would go out and we would socialize the marketplace. And we did this through presentations at data summits and presentations with senior leaders like our CFO and our director of HR. And we used a visualization like you see here to really describe what we're trying to do with the marketplace, which is to enable a user to come in and browse data and purchase data like you would in a grocery store, and be able to get all the information about it. And so that's what we've done so far in our data governance journey. Ramiz, I'll hand it back to you.
Well, thank you, Amanda. I think that is a very, very good story to listen to. I'm pretty sure a lot of people in our audience today really benefited from what you just shared with them. So my next question is to you, Josh, and it's primarily around the challenges. So we know data sharing and democratization is important, but what are the typical challenges that organizations must overcome to scale such an initiative, and what steps must be taken to do so?
Excellent. Thank you, Ramiz. Yeah, this is something that's common, and Horn did a great job of illustrating the challenges that they overcame. Because what happens consistently, if you think of the on-prem world, when we had so many different shared folders, right? Excel files, reports all over the place. And now that we have all these cloud applications, data is proliferated across all these different repositories. So it's not just a matter of format, from an Excel file to a dashboard to, a table. It is everywhere. And now we have, enterprise users, data consumers, struggling to even know if the data exists and if they can get access to it. And one of the things that, really triggered me through the years was, as a data architect, I would build these incredible data models. And then we'd go to these staff meetings and someone would say, well, I don't have access to that. That data doesn't exist. And we say, yes, it does. Well, where is it? How do I get access to it? I think we can all relate to that today. Everything from, HR data to sales data, right? It's all buried in that application. So the real gap, the real challenge is having that centralized place for your enterprise data consumers, which is your number one consumer, the largest majority, having them have the ability to not only see what exists, but how to get access to it, and then providing context to it. So that way you can start crowdsourcing that information from them and ensuring that all these data assets that you're providing are evergreen.
Thank you, Josh, for sharing that information with us. I would like to hear from Amanda, Carol, and Indrajit too. While you went through your initiative, you must have faced some certain challenges, certain barriers. Can you talk through them and also, kind of share with us how you overcame those challenges?
Sure. Thanks, Ramiz. Just like Josh and Ian have both said, we did run into some common barriers throughout this journey. This first one really goes back to that siloed data knowledge and lack of access to subject matter experts. That data knowledge lived with them, and they have their own daily job. They have their own responsibility and projects. And so trying to get them involved in other projects like a data governance project is hard. And so we really had to think through the best way to work with them and to make the most efficient use of their time so that we could get their support and get their involvement. Indrajit, I'll let you talk to the next one.
Sure. Let me pick it up when I had mentioned about PI and PHI data. Very, very large data sets across different kind of sources, across different business areas. So we all realize that there is a major challenge, and there is an exposure, and there is a risk. So decided we need to get along with it and manage it. But the challenge was, how are we going to do it? There wasn't an easy way to kind of deploy a common corporate policies across all the different fragmented silos of PI and PHI. And how do we ensure that even if we had it, that it was being complied with? Because it is one thing to identify and put the rules in place, but the more important thing is that it is dynamically being applied and that we are adhering to it. So that I think was one of the major barriers we face, especially around sensitive data. So Carol, you want to talk about the next 2 points?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So as Amanda mentioned, we have tons of data in different format. So at Horn, we store data like, we have on-prem SQL Server, we have Power BI server, we have a cloud database like Synapse, we also use Databricks, and all of them also managed by different admins. So what typically happened before is, business users would tend to find, we call them the IT buddy, and they will make those requests to their IT buddies. And often cases, what happens is, let's say 2 business users, they want the same data, but they request to different IT people. They result in duplicated effort and also very hard to manage and service those requests. So the question really becomes, how do we allow data consumers to self-serve? And also, how do we provide them with the correct contact if they have questions? And another thing is, how can we provide them information about the lineage of the data so they can fully understand where the data they requested are actually coming from and how it has been processed. And then the last, certainly not the least challenge we're facing is at Horn, we had disparate tools to process data. So we use Informatica ICS, we use Pentaho, we use Databricks, we use ADF, you name it. And what happens is, how can we help to identify like potential areas and provide use cases so that we can further integrate these tools. So basically, you know, these are the major barriers we encountered in our journey. And Amanda, I would like to talk about our solutions.
Okay, perfect. For that first issue that we ran into, the way that we handled it was to meet with our senior leaders, our CFO and our director of HR, and have them identify data stewards that could come in and work with the governance team and be part of the governance team. And then we asked for them to prioritize this work. And so to give them time to work with us. And we've set up meeting cadences with them, and that's moving along very smoothly. And then we populated policies and developed compliance workflows. And we did this, really the main thing that helped in this particular barrier was working with our security and compliance team from the start. So they are fully integrated into this process. We meet with them on a weekly basis, and they really are our #1 champions in this journey. And we worked with them to populate an initial set of policies inside Cloud Data Governance and Marketplace. And we allow them to be attached easily to dataset systems and processes. And this really gets back to trying to make this as easy as possible to use so that we can get adoption. And then we also went in and assigned roles and responsibilities. And we did this by defining these roles and using those data stewards that our senior leaders had provided to send out what their responsibility is and really broadcast that across the governance team. And this really improved collaboration because it made it a very clear hierarchy and authority for each part of the process. And then finally, talking about what Carol mentioned with all the tools that we have, you know, trying to figure out which ones should we integrate, how should we integrate them, you know, when does it make sense? We've really been trying to combine those together, and the IDMC platform allows us to catalog these different tools. And so it's really helped us, and we've really been focused from the beginning with the IDMC platform to make this an integrated, seamless process as much as we can. So we test out new features as they're released, and we follow the updates of the product roadmaps, really trying to ensure that we can make the best customer experience possible in the marketplace. And that's really how we've overcome our barriers. Rameez?
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda, for sharing that information. I think this is very helpful. It also gives a real life insight into what kind of challenges an organization like yourselves would typically face and how we could probably figure out a way to overcome those barriers. With that said, we'll move on to the next audience poll. So this is the question to the audience. Please provide your inputs here. Okay, so we have a response there. So nearly 50% of the audience say that it's lack of resources, time, personal funding, and then we also see we are equally split between scaling out across the organization and ease of operationalization, which I'm pretty sure resonates with even you, Amanda, Carol, and Indrajit, because you're seeing this happen too. Moving on to the next question. I would like to ask you, Indrajit, Carol, and Amanda, what steps did you take really to scale or operationalize the project? I know Data Marketplace serves as a very important enabler in this whole process of self-serving data for people across the organization. How central was a Data Marketplace in your journey, and how did it help in your whole data sharing and democratization initiative?
Sure. Thanks, Rameez, for that question, or those questions. You know, kind of back to this picture of the marketplace in general, really building out this comprehensive marketplace, it really helps us to align the business areas. So going back to talking about data being siloed, I know I keep bringing that up, but it's such a big deal. And, HR might have their own definition of a particular term, and marketing might have a separate version of it, and finance might have a separate version. And so what the marketplace and IDMC in general helped us to do is to get clear definitions that we can put into the tools so that, consumer like myself can come in and really understand, what does this mean? And so we're using that, and then we can move on to the next slide. The next part of that, again, just going through roles and responsibilities. So we clearly defined what those roles were, and we're pushing all of our new data requests through the marketplace. So it's really the central point for a consumer to come in. So as a data consumer comes in with a question, that will go over to the person that owns that data, which is the data steward. They can look at the question and determine whether the data meets their needs. If it does, it gets approved and it goes to the compliance officer. They approve it, and then it goes over to the data custodian like myself that provides the access. And then eventually, if you need more metrics or different analysis done, it can go to the analyst. But it provides that one place for that process to happen. Indrajit, do you want to talk a little bit how that fits into the architecture at Horn?
Absolutely. So a few things. We have talked about concepts, and Amanda has been talking about how to get the business involved and how we kind of collaborating with them to kind of be, a unit which works with the other business users. But I think one important thing for us is a blueprint. So our blueprint is very consolidated. I mean, the whole approach, let me touch on this, is we actually look at analytics, engineering, governance, and architecture in a very composite way. The reason is I've worked in many places where these units actually have their own life cycle. They have a way of governance, the way they integrate. But I think what we decided from day one that we would kind of take a kind of a composite view of things. So on this one, you can see that we have a very classic flow across different zones that we use for managing our architecture. But of significance is the enterprise data catalogs that you can see right on top on green. So we have a clear visibility of data across all the different facets of the engineering stack. And we follow this right from day one. And I think that Carolyn touched on the lineage part of it. And this is where all that comes together. And a very other critical thing, as you would see, is the red lines on the security, governance, and validation. So that, again, kind of flows from the catalog aspect, understanding domains, of understanding responsibilities, the roles, and the control that we want to put together. So I think this kind of helps us, any project, anything from where it comes as an analytics project, an engineering project, or data marketplace, we kind of try to kind of adhere to this architecture. With that, let me talk a little bit of specifically on the marketplace architecture. One of the things, as you can see, that we use these tools very interactively with each other. Though they kind of stay in a separate stack, what we decided is that in our workflow process that Amanda talked about, there is this continuous interaction that is happening. We have building API-related information across these environments so that we have a clear clarity of how the workflow is progressing, how the users have a kind of a pretty much up-to-date view of where their specific, the request is being served. And especially on your left, as we say, scan, something which was of great interest to me. And I've seen that's where most of our lineage had stumbled upon is the transformation machine. The Informatica the whole process flow was very critical. And we are now able to integrate everything from data at rest to data in motion by analyzing all our transformation tool, especially the ISCS. And the other thing I would like to show, of course, I talked about the red arrow, the bidirectional arrow, where both of these interact with each other. But the other thing is that the users are not siloed across a specific tool. they can leverage all the information in both these. So users on the CDGC have an ability to get information on the CDMP, and we have also built a lot of dashboards which kind of have a comprehensive view of it. And again, like I'd mentioned in the previous, the data catalog and the compliance is the backbone of everything. And in our organization, this is one thing, the security aspect is what keeps our security and compliance officer awake at night. So that's how we are deploying the blueprint on the bigger context of the data architecture stack, the engineering stack. And this is a kind of a focus diagram of how we are using the democratization process that we are discussing. And I think we are making good success on this path. Over, Ramesh. Carol, do you want to take over?
Yeah, thank you. So, for people like me, data scientists, the data analyst, we usually come with a bunch of questions, right? Question like, what kind of data do we have? How do I access it? Who do I contact? Where does data originate? How it's being processed? When I look at table, what's the meaning of the field? How is this metric calculated? What's amazing about the data marketplace is it holds the answer to all those questions. I don't have to email different people, wait around and trying to find my answers. Also, people don't have to stop what they do to try to help me out and explain contents to me. Everything is, I can find it on data marketplace. It really reduced the bottlenecks in the data request process. So Ramesh, I will head back to you.
Samantha.
Thank you. So my next question would be now to Ian and Josh. You can just tag team on this. According to you, why is data marketplace such a fundamental need in a data sharing and democratization initiative? And what makes it the heart and soul of such an initiative?
Ian, you want me to take this or?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Well, sorry, we were so busy running a webinar, we didn't get a chance to ask the question. What makes it the heart and soul of it? I think it gets to this issue that actually came up in the Q&A just a moment ago that Josh and I were actually wrestling with, which is that organizations have a real thirst for analytics, and analytics, I think, is, in a sense, commoditized, right? You can get a Tableau seat for, with your Salesforce account for pennies on the dollar. Power BI seats are free, right? So, like, I can do analytics and reporting. Anybody can do analytics and reporting, right? It's super easy, except this friction around getting access to the data, right? And I think this is really where the marketplace comes in by providing this kind of consumer experience, right? That, like Amanda, Carol.
Okay, just to close out there, hopefully you guys can hear me. It looks like Ian froze. But yeah, going back to Josh Smith's question, the biggest thing that this is solving for is it's shining the light on the dark corners of your enterprise data. As I related before, it takes a skill set and a competency and also tribal knowledge to know where any of this data is. And the data marketplace allows the publication of all of these assets that you create in your IT center, right? You create these data assets, you put all this work into it, and now you need a place to merchandise it, right? I use the analogy of a supermarket you'll see later, but a friend of mine was a wine dealer, and every Saturday morning he would go to these supermarkets and merchandise his product. That's the same concept with data. Right now, IT doesn't have that ability or that luxury. So the enterprise data consumers don't have access to that. And so really, to answer your question, Josh, it's the ability to publish what's there, then to crowdsource the feedback on that, what's missing, and being able to empower these data consumers to get access to the data that they need without trying to do these one-offs and triage. Because you're right, they lack the skill set to be able to do it themselves. But a lot of times they lack the knowledge to even know if it exists and what exists.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess the webinar thought I should throw that question to you, Josh. Which is what happened. So apologize for that. We had a technical snafu. I would just add, the idea is, I think the principle behind the marketplace too is, If you can't bring the users to the data because they lack data literacy or technical, bring data to the users, bring it down to their level, so that they can find what they're looking for in a kind of self-service experience. That's what everybody's looking for, and that's how you reduce any complexity.
Right.
Yeah, back to you, Ramiz.
Excellent, Ian. Bringing the data to the user. Excellent. I think that's what will resonate with everybody out here, right? So, and I'm pretty sure everybody wants to do that. So my next question is to, again, Amanda, Carol, and Indrajit. Now that we heard your story, we heard the challenges that you face. What are the next steps for Horn, and how are you planning to kind of continue to scale your initiatives going forward?
Sure. So if you'll just advance one more for me, Ramiz, get the little locations to pop up for me. Thank you. Sorry for the animations. So just some quick next steps. We're going to continue to work with the data stewards that we already have identified that are part of the governance team, build out their areas, their business areas. And then we're going to use the wins that we've had with them to go in and really pull in other business areas that may be hesitant. Maybe they've tried some sort of data governance and it's failed in the past, or maybe they're just really, unsure about how much time and effort it's going to require. And then we're going to be presenting the adoption metrics of the marketplace and data governance quarterly to senior leaders and throughout the company. And then we're going to go through and continue to socialize the marketplace. So we're going to go out and continue to have these data summits. We're going to show people that you can come in and really self-serve. And that gets back to the question that Josh asked, which is, how do we make it available so that they don't have to do things like joins? And then again, I know I talked about this already, but really trying to improve that customer experience. We want it to be seamless when you use that platform, that you can go in and easily request the data, ask your questions to the data stewards, and get the responses that you need.
Okay, excellent. So I'll just quickly bring the slide up, and then Josh, the next question would be primarily to you. Now we heard that data marketplace is fundamental in a data sharing and data democratization initiative. What are some of the other major components in terms of data management that actually helps or augments the data marketplace's capability?
Excellent question, Ramiz. And I try to keep it simple, the keep it simple philosophy. Think of your data as a consumer good in a supermarket, right? Every organization has to deal with shipping and logistics of that data, right? Is it in a CSV? Is it in an application? Is it an EDI? All these different sources and frequencies. And where Informatica's Intelligent Data Management Cloud helps facilitate your data sharing and democratization is that we have one platform that can easily handle all of your integration needs. So that way you could receive the right data at the right time. Then, just like in a supermarket, quality control, right? Is this data asset fit for use? And what I mean by that is, are there data outliers? Are there inconsistencies? Is there abbreviations? Is there context? And having that ability to use our 230 pre-built data quality rules really empowers organizations to quickly ensure that that data is fit for use. And then our governance and catalog service, if you think about the supermarket analogy, if you went to your local grocery store and you didn't see what you want, would they bring you to the back room? No, right? The whole purpose of the back room is to really categorize any sensitive data assets, to identify domains for potential master data management later on, and to really make it easy for consumption when you get to the marketplace. And if you walk into any store, either retail or grocery, you will quickly see what aisles the products are in and the context in which you can use them. And that's the same concept with the data marketplace. And then coming very soon is our data prep solution. And that really empowers the business users without having any ETL skill set, the chance to easily be the master chef of their gourmet data meal. And across all this is the master data management access of this, because each one of these services, each one of these areas in this analogy has a concept of master data and domains. So you think about the suppliers, providing you the data, the product or the service that you're categorizing, and then the customers. Being able to tie that all together with a source of truth for that one golden record, again, Informatica's intelligent data management cloud ensures that that data is fit for use for the masses.
That's a great analogy, Josh. Thank you for bringing this up, because it kind of gives a holistic picture as to what all the different parts of data management can really do to enable the ultimate aim of data sharing and democratization. With that, I have one last question, and this is for you, Ian. How easy it is to democratize data, and how does a data marketplace really bring the data consumers and data producers together?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll try not to drop out of the webinar right now, but I would say internally we have this saying here inside of my team, right, which is marketplace gets the glory, but IDMC wins the game, right? And it's important, I think, for this audience to understand that Informatica packages the data democratization and self-service solution into a single cloud service, IDMC, which has all the functionality, all the capabilities that Joshua was just describing in the previous slide. And that's what really comes together to make the marketplace experience as simple as possible. What makes the marketplace experience simple for your data consumers, for your financial analysts, for your data analysts, for your typical Tableau seat holder, Power BI seat holder, is that it's easy to find data. What makes that possible is the capabilities behind it. But hey, I could talk about this all day, and rather than just talking about this, maybe we could show it to you. I think we had a quick demonstration that we could roll. So Ramiz, maybe we should go ahead and roll that. We could show that to the audience here. This is Informatica Cloud Data Marketplace, a service on the Intelligent Data Management Cloud that enables data producers to publish data products, make them available to data consumers on a self-service basis. Marketplace enables data producers to publish data into select categories, say sales data, product data, analytics reports. So the data consumers can easily browse those topic areas and find exactly what they need. Or if they're looking for something more specific, they can search, looking for data that may pertain to particular topics, maybe data that's been certified for particular usage, or data that's available on certain platforms or delivery endpoints, maybe data that's been more highly rated. This allows the data consumers to search to find exactly what they need. They get immediate visibility into what's in this data product, how they can get it, on what basis, whether it's any good. This data looks good. I think I'll click in to take a closer look. Here in Marketplace's data product, we get visibility into everything I need to know about this data. What's it for? Who owns it? Who's responsible for getting it to me? Who else is using it and for what? I can see what's in this data. The data assets that comprise this data may be accompanied by analytics models or other documentation. The quality of this data, the places where I can get this data if I want to get it access to me, and who else is using this data. Different data consumers within the community that are also using this data. And if I want to, I can reach directly out to them, get a sense of their experience of using this data, so that can help inform me about how I might want to use this data. If I like what I see, I just click the checkout button and I request it. Say what I intend to use this data for, how and where I want to use it, supply the cost center in which I want to be able to use this data, maybe a few other parameters. Accept the terms and conditions of use, hit submit. That's it. Behind the scenes, Marketplace orchestrates all the activities necessary for me to be able to find, to get this data delivered to the endpoint where I need it in a timely manner. And I can track that activity right here on my Orders page. Behind the scenes, Marketplace notifies everybody who's involved in the delivery of this data in this order, bringing in additional people as needed so that we can make sure that data owners, data engineers, and other members of the data team collaborate to be able to make sure that this data is approved and made available in a timely manner, and can be delivered to the location where the consumer needs it, say this PySpark runtime, or if need be, they can stand up an alternate delivery endpoint that they can get specifically to meet the needs of this consumer if they need to. Once they've done that, they hit fulfill and complete the order. We maintain a record of the access grant so we know exactly how and where this data was delivered, on the basis of what terms and conditions, in which delivery and access point, for what purpose, and under what cost center. The consumer can then go see that that data has been delivered to them here in the their data I use page. So they have easy access to this data directly at their fingerprints. And by the way, this record of the consumer's access of to this data is something that is itself manageable. So if you need to be able to withdraw this data for whatever purpose, you can just go ahead and initiate that withdrawal right here. Marketplace allows data producers and consumers to collaborate to provide easy access to data as they need on a self-service basis, automating many of the processes for data delivery. Thank you.
That was great, Ian. Thank you for sharing the demo with us. It's very useful. I mean, it was in a quick nutshell, we could really see how a data marketplace works and how is it easy for a consumer to really order data, get access to data with a click of a few buttons.
Yeah, I thought that guy did a great job. I would be remiss if I didn't give a hat tip out to our colleague, Kate Amory, who's our demo queen and usually does those demos for us. Kate had a baby last month, is on maternity leave, taking care of that newborn right now. So shout out to her.
Of course, the Kate Amory.
Exactly.
All right. With that said, we have the final audience poll for everybody. So please, submit your response. We would like to capture this audience poll because this is important for us to get a feedback from you. If you have additional things to be added, just add it into the Q&A chat window for us to take away as feedback from your side. And with that, we'll also move into the Q&A. Whoever is already participated in the poll, please feel free to add your questions in the Q&A box. We'd like to, kind of now answer some of the questions that you've been posting. And while this is happening, I think let's go through some of the questions. I see Josh had some questions here. He mentioned that we keep hiring financial analysts that do not even know what ETL is, but they want all the data. I think there was a question to Amanda and Carol. I mean, do you ever worry about swim lanes and who does what? Where does a financial analyst start and stop? The traditional distinction between the roles is evolving as technology is growing. So Amanda and Carol, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, so I can answer at least part of it and let Amanda jump in. So one thing about the financial analysts who don't know ELT, I think it was Josh's slides, the data prep, that's a very, very good service. I would recommend checking it out because it's a very intuitive way. You don't need to know, you don't have to know a strong like ETL skills. It's just click and, like the way like you would do maybe Excel, even better than Excel. So I would definitely try to check it out. That's gonna help with people who don't have a strong, like, more like data engineering skills.
And I could jump in and address like the alignment question. So that's where it was really important for us, again, to have our security and compliance group involved, because they can say, this is really needed. This is really needed throughout the organization. And they can help to meet with those senior leaders and really get buy-in from the different business areas so that you can move forward. And that's where data governance really comes in handy, the cloud data governance and catalog, because it allows us to define those terms. And so there's less concern about somebody from a different business area coming in and using that data, because they have all the information they need to understand what it means and what it should be used for. And then they have access to the data stewards. That's where the alignment really is helped by the platform.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carolyn. And there is a question from Christina which says, discussions always circle around data that is there now to show in a marketplace or reporting. I feel there is always a miss in standardizing data objects while building out data management. But this includes working with the business to understand their needs. Do you have any example of how companies have done that? Josh, would you or Ian want to kind of, tackle that question?
Yeah, I took a stab at answering it. I sent it to everyone, but yeah, that was a common trend, because what'll happen is, customers will have a demand, and that was a great example. It's like, okay, this is what we have, but what are we missing? The Cloud Data Governance and Catalog tool allows you to scan all of your existing assets. So for example, the data consumers look at it from, what do I have access to in a report, right? Your analysts may look at it to, what do I have access in Excel? And the ability to scan your data lineage and impact analysis across all your source applications shows you the data that you have. And then what I typically use is business dimensional modeling. It's a process created by Laura Reeves, where I would go to the business and conceptualize, what are your needs, right? Do you need a customer? Do you need a product? What are kind of those domains that you need in order to slice and dice and get the data that you want? And then I would document that in the Cloud Data Governance and Catalog. The decisions were made, and that's really starting for me to classify my domains there. So then I can start looking for, where is the source of that data reside? Is it an external vendor? Is it manual? Where's the process? And you're really starting to use Data Marketplace as that crowdsourcing capability to gather those gaps, those business requirements, and then you're documenting that process in your Cloud Data Governance and Catalog as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing the answer to that, Josh. So there is a question from Tori. How much guidance was provided by Informatica on how to use your tools to maximize benefit? I think this, Amanda, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things that are really, really helpful. There's the Experience Lounge, which takes you through kind of demos of how to use the marketplace, and not only how to use the marketplace, but as a different role. So am I a data consumer? How should I use the marketplace? Am I a data steward? And I think that's really insightful, and it really helps just to see how that process happens. And then also in the marketplace, you have guidance and you have pins that you can pin that documentation to the page that you're on, and it gives you information specifically about the page that you're looking at in the marketplace.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. A question from Mike. After an analyst finds and gets access to data set in the marketplace, how does delivery happen? Do they need to be skilled enough in their reporting tool to know what happens next? Do they usually need additional instruction? Ian, would you want to take that question?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say that, and I think this is an important point, right? Is like, how does last mile delivery happen? And I think really this is where the strength of IDMC and its capabilities come to the fore, which is we can orchestrate data delivery in any manner that's required to be able to get the data from the data store to the consumer. And that could be a function of us automating data mappings that provision that data. Say I can extract that data from an S3 bucket, provision that to an Athena endpoint for you to do query, or I can convert that data into a Tableau workbook and to make that available in the Tableau project space that you need. right? Marketplace provides a convenient way, like we talked about in the demo, for the consumer to be able to specify how and where they want to get the data. That's all metadata that we can read to be able to automate a lot of that provisioning. And not just on the Informatica platform too, but we can also orchestrate activities that may be happening on AWS Lake Formation, or on Azure, or on Google Cloud, or on Snowflake. So the critical thing is that we can map into the data environment, and then once we know where the data is in the environment, we can orchestrate delivery in a convenient way. Great question, Mike.
I think we have most of the questions. We've answered them. So quickly for everybody else, all the audience who have joined, thank you for joining the webinar. Make sure you download all the additional, data assets that we have, already uploaded for you. You have the presentation. You also have some supplemental documents out there, which will also kind of support what we discussed today. And we would like you to kind of, join us at Informatica World, which is happening this year during this time of May 8th to 11th at Las Vegas. So please join us. This is a QR code for you to register for a deep dive session on data sharing and democratization. Please take this will directly take you to the registration page. With that said, thank you again to take your time out to join the session. And thanks to our speakers today for taking their time out, speaking through the topic. I will just, close the webinar for today. But before we do that, I'll run a quick video for you. And this will kind of talk through what a marketplace really is. Thank you.
All around the globe, organizations are investing in their continuous digital transformation journey. But unless you can get trusted data into the right hands at the right time, you are stopping short of reaching your data's fullest potential in today's competitive landscape. What if data consumers could find, understand, trust, and access data when they need it? What if you could maximize your machine learning investments by packaging and promoting AI, ML, and analytics models and make them available for self-service and encourage reuse? What if all requests could be traced from order to delivery? What if data owners could understand who is using the data and for what purpose? Introducing Informatica Cloud Data Marketplace, the industry's only cloud-native intelligent enterprise-scale governed data marketplace for data sharing. As part of Informatica's Intelligent Data Management Cloud, this easy-to-use service enables efficient delivery of data to consumers. With Cloud Data Marketplace, data assets can now be packaged from any data source, published, searched for, and shopped for, tracked until fulfillment and usage of the data is understood. Having the right data just when you need it is now easy to achieve thanks to data sharing with Cloud Data Marketplace. Informatica.
Okay, thank you everyone. Have a great rest of the day. And please do feel free to reach out to us beyond the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.